Okay, let's get started. Welcome everyone. Thank you all for joining us for today's webinar. My name is Aditya Sharma, and I'm one of the two co-founders at Councilor. Today, we are going to present a day in the life of a senior business data analyst at Intuit with our guest speaker, Sheila Golrang from Intuit. The agenda for today's webinar event is going to be quite simple. We'll start with a quick introduction of Councilor and our guest speaker. Then we'll move to the main topic of the event, which is our Q&A session. So don't be shy and feel free to ask questions to our guest speaker. To ask any question, you can put your question in the chat box on the YouTube panel. Simply put in your question there and I'll speak it out to our guest speaker. The main purpose of today's event is for you to learn everything you need to know about a successful career as a business data analyst. We'll then wrap up the webinar and offer our attendees a little gift to stick with us until the end of the webinar. So let us get started with a brief introduction on Councilor. Councilor is a unique platform that connects job seekers and professionals with company insiders and industry experts. As I'm sure you all know, today the key to land a job at a company is getting a job referral. It's extremely difficult to get a job at a top company unless you know someone on the inside who can give you an edge over the tons of other online applicants. Councilor can instantly connect you with a company insider from your dream company and help you get the coaching you need to drastically increase your chances to land your job. So that's enough about Councilor. Let's move to our guest speaker. Thank you so much, Sheila, for joining us today. We really appreciate your time. So why don't you get started with your story, a little background on your professional and educational experience?
Sure. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Let me see if I can share. Where did I go with sharing?
It's at the middle.
Where did I go in the sharing?
There is an option of share right in the middle, the green button.
Oh, there you go. I have it right there. Can you see my screen?
Not yet.
Let's see, like this.
Do you have that share button?
Can you see it?
No, not yet.
That is so strange. I can just go ahead otherwise.
Okay.
So long story short, I was born in Iran and I grew up in Sweden. I lived on and off for about 10 years in Spain, and my mom's side lives here in San Diego. So I've been in San Diego and California every summer and Christmas since I was 7. Career-wise, I have about 7+ years experience within service, finance, and marketing. And I started my career after taking a master's in economics at the Swedish university called Umeå. And I started my career as a sales consultant for a startup company in Sweden. In about a year, I was promoted to work on a project in Spain where I got headhunted by HP to their service delivery department. I was with them for about a little bit over a year and then got promoted to a global position as an analyst and was transferred to San Diego, where I am today. Overall, I've been with HP for about, I was with HP for about 5+ years before I joined Intuit, where I am today within their financial department. Shortly about Intuit, for those that don't know, Intuit is a company with about 9,000 employees. We're located about 20 locations in 9 different countries, and we have a revenue about 6.8 billion in 2019. The company has a headquarters in Mountain View, Palo Alto, and it was founded in 1983 when by Scott Cook, and it went public in 93. And our CEO today is Sasan Godsari, Godsarsi, who's also Iranian, just like me.
Mhm.
The company is growing tremendously, very, very rapidly. And as I mentioned, Sasan, our CEO, we have different departments. It could be anything from marketing, we can have the product, we could have human resources, technology, and so on. Finance is the department I work within as a senior data analyst. And shortly, skills that are needed. And I'm just bringing an example. We can, three examples of skills needed. One is technology, presentation skills, and the culture, how you work. In technology, we have the basic skills looking at Excel, PowerPoint, ThinkCell. Those are the basic skills when we look from a technology perspective. When we're looking at a little bit more intermediate skills, we're looking more at BI tools such as Tableau, ClickSense, Power BI. We're also looking at if you know any programming skills such as SQL, or if you look at AWS, which is the Amazon Web Services, their syntax. And then if you want to go really advanced, then we're looking at programming skills such as Python or R or JavaScript or other programming skills. That's from the technology point perspective. Presentation, we're looking from how do you communicate? Are you transparent? How are you with the negotiations, and also project management? Can you, from the moment that it starts, by when do you deliver? What's your status? What are the issues you're running through? And rather than just, and then with the last one, just how you work. So it's not only of what you accomplish, but also how you accomplish and how you work with others. And that's a little bit a brief about me and Twid and my role.
That's
And
great. Yeah. Thank you so much, Sheila, for providing a wonderful background. I really appreciate it. So let's start with your job. So how would you define your role as a business data analyst? What your typical day looks like?
oh, we can very, very much. But for those that ask me if I'm at a party, they ask me what I work with or what I do. And I usually say that I look at what we spend internally within the company. It could be anything. Look in how we spend on legal services or customer services or recruiting, how much that is, everything that the company spend internally, that's where our team comes in and look at and see how we could be more efficient with those spendings, if that answers your question.
Yes, perfect. And what do you most like or maybe something dislike about your role?
The number one thing that I love about my job is the people. Um, we
Mhm.
work with amazing people, extremely bright people, and we have fun at the same time and we challenge each other. So I would say the people dislike when the technology is not working, when there's a technology issue, that's when I'm not, that's something that I dislike because it just slows down and you rely so much on it.
hmm That totally makes sense. So there are a lot of, I would say, entry-level candidates who are confused between what is data analyst and what is data scientist. So can you just define the difference between the two roles?
So actually that data science name was actually came from Facebook a couple of years ago. There were just for that particular purpose that it was so many roles and it was very hard to know what was who was what and doing what. So they came up with this name data science and it bloomed up and now it's becoming a high end title, so to speak. So Facebook actually started with that title, but I want to say from a data analyst perspective, it's more how you look, just as I mentioned with the skill set. You're working on a day-to-day, the basics is coming from Excel, PowerPoint, that's at the basics. And next on the intermediate, we're looking at the business intelligence tool. It could be Tableau, Power BI, it could be SQL, and then the advanced in the data analyst role. The advanced there is Python or JavaScript. But looking me on a data science, now we're talking similar into advanced. I would want to say that their basics is what is considered the advanced and a data analyst. Their basics is R or Python or JavaScript. and then they are working with machine learners, software developments of doing the predictable analytics. That's my definition of it.
Mm-hmm. That's very helpful. Thank you so much. So, how can a student who's aiming to be a data analyst start his or her preparation while in college?
I would say definitely, I want to say the main skills is, I don't want to say math, but you definitely want to know how the technology works today because you work heavily with the technology, and even if it's Excel. So I would want to say learn Excel, VBA, take classes in that. Also learn how the business works. So if you want to take business classes, so rather than knowing the numbers and the programming, so when I say programming, I'm saying Excel, VBA, SQL, a business intelligence tool, anyone that you want to learn. So focus on those three, and then also take business class at the same time or on the side or after, just so understanding what the numbers mean rather than just knowing the numbers.
Mm-hmm. Perfect. Thank you. How can an experienced professional make a pivot to a data analyst role? There are so many professionals who are, say, sometime in product management and data science. This particular domain is growing a lot, right? People want to make a shift. So, is it how easy or difficult is to make that shift? And if somebody is making that shift, like what skills would be required?
That's actually a good question because I actually know two or three coworkers within our company that actually they did a boot camp, a
Hmm.
3-month boot camp, and learned programming to learn. And today they're software engineer. One of them is software engineer. He doesn't have a high school degree. He didn't know what he wanted to do, and he took a 3-month program. And today he's a really good software engineer at the company. And that's an
Nice.
example if you want to do a Swift, participate in one of those boot camps, I would say.
Hmm. So that is definitely doable, and there are people who have done it, and companies do consider, uh,
Absolutely.
right?
Yes.
Okay,
We have
okay,
a few. I can name them many, many.
okay. That's good to know. So it's not a very traditional path, right? Where you earn a degree and then only you can get in.
No.
Perfect. Okay, great. So, what is the recommended job search strategy for this role from a student and an experienced professional point of view? Because these days there's so much competition that getting into companies like Intuit or Cisco and these roles can be very challenging.
Well, I think you nailed it on your first presentation of definitely networking helps
Hmm.
and the skill set helps. But once you get into the interview, I think it also matters of how you present yourself. I can mention that we in one of the in one of the interviews that I was interviewing, the candidate was really good, definitely knew the numbers, definitely knew the technology, but this person simply couldn't answer the questions. It's whether even if he or she knows the numbers, if you can't present it, it makes it hard for the audience to understand it. And that makes you hesitant. So to answer your question there, I want to say networking, but just keep on applying and go meet people. And obviously Intuit is looking, so feel free to reach out to me if you're interested. But yeah, it's keep on applying. It's just keep on
Hmm.
applying, don't give up.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. Okay, so what are some common job titles that equate to data analyst role? Because as I said, like there was a confusion between like who's doing what, and then they came up with data scientist. Are there any other similar job titles that is related to data analyst role?
You mean from a data science perspective?
Yes, from data science perspective.
It's actually a very good question. And I think that's something that the industry is struggling with today, not just Intuit, it's every company. But I want to say that when you even the title might be confusing sometimes, but I want to say the first of all, if you're looking at from my definition, if you're looking at a data analyst, this is the analyst that has the basic of Excel, Power, the basics there is Excel, PowerPoint, it is ThinkCell, it is while the basic for data science is what it's considered to be the advance of a data analyst. And the title may shift from company to company. So I want to
Hmm.
suggest to read the description of the role, and there you would see how the requirement of the skills. So in certain situation, a data science could have the basic skills could be R or SQL or heavy machine learning. Then it's more towards the data science perspective. But if you're looking at the description, it says no, the basics has to be BI tools such as Tableau or Power BI, no SQL and VBA. Then I want to say that's more towards a business data analyst role. Did
Hmm.
that answer your question?
Yes, definitely. So, Sheila, as you mentioned about different skills that are required for data scientist or data analyst role. Now, if I talk specifically about data analyst role, is it good to have like which option is better? Like expertise in a single language or a specific type of tool to work with data, or to have a broader understanding of several languages or several tools?
I want to say the latter.
Hmm.
That it's better to have an understanding or broader understanding of several tools. And this goes back to languages, any languages, program languages, or actual human language. And uh, speaking for myself that speaks a few languages, it is always easier to adjust to a new language, programming or human language. It's always easier to adjust or pick up something
Hmm.
while you're working with it. And actually, you pick up a few new things that you haven't. If let's say that I know SQL and I know Excel and I'm working with this Excel, but then I'm realizing, SQL can do this. I wonder if Excel could do this too. But and then you go in and you look, and it turns out that Excel can also do it, and then you just improve the workflow a little bit more. So I would say the latter.
Hmm. And I think it helps you understand that particular tool or language better also, right? When you're working on a practical project and the example that you mentioned, right?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely, and it's actually beneficial. Same thing when you know you pick up on things you didn't know, but you know because you know the other languages, it's going to be
Hmm.
useful in the current language that you're learning, if that makes sense.
Yes, definitely. So, Sheila, what's the interview format for data analyst position? Like, how many interview rounds are typically there? Are there technical, behavioral rounds?
So for a data analyst role, we have the first, it's a phone screening, and that's when the recruiter reach out to you, and that's the first step. If that goes well, then the next step is a phone interview with the manager, the hiring manager, and if that goes well, then it will be an on-site interview. And the on-site interview, it's well, you will be handed a case where you will have to do perform an analysis, and then you come to one of our sites, if it's in Mountain View, San Diego, or any other site, and you will have a panel of 4 employers or interviewers interviewing you, and that's a interview on site, face to face for about an hour and a half, where you present your case, and we ask you questions, and you ask us questions, and after
Mm.
that, it's the decision whether or not you're hired will be made.
So there is no behavioral interview part in it?
So the behavioral, or when we say if it's a culture fit, that happens on site, that 1 hour face to face meeting.
Got it. Okay. So, what are the key things to be mindful of stating in interviews for this particular position? I'm sure you must have interviewed a lot of candidates. So, as in, how can a candidate present himself or herself with the best of their abilities? What are the things that separate one candidate from 10 other?
It's such a good question, and it's definitely something that we struggle with today. But I want to say answer the question is a very high one. If you that's something that I've noticed for the past interviews is because you're very nervous, which is completely understandable. But it's and I do the same thing where you're nervous and you ask a question, and I'm sure I've done it throughout this process too, where you've asked me a question and I'm babbling around it, but I'm not really answering the question. It's easier said than done, but that is something that it sticks out when somebody answers the question spot on. Not that there's a right or wrong answer, but that you answer the question.
Hmm. And
So
if you
that's
don't know
something.
and if you don't know the answer, you can be straightforward, right? I don't know
It's
it.
it's exactly. I don't know that answer. An example could be if, let's say you ask me, Sheila, how old are you?
Hmm.
And then somebody can answer, and I could say, well, I'm not going to say my age here, absolutely not, but I could then say, well, I was born 19 blah 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 blah,
uh,
and I'm not answering the question, but I am at the same time. But
yep,
or
you're
I
not
just say
coming to the point.
exactly. And granted, I do the same, we all do it, but I've noticed that the more you're answering the question, the more you stick out. That's
Hmm.
something I've noticed.
Sure. So, what's the typical career path of a data analyst? For example, right now you're working as a senior business data analyst. Where do you see yourself in 5 years or 10 years? What are the different paths that you can take?
So there's different paths of after coming from a senior, then you go up to staff business analyst, or if let's say you're data science, it will be staff there too. And then after that, you get to decide whether or not if you want to go as a individual contributor or if you want to go towards a management where you help the next generation to grow. And as an individual, you can go just like in a manager, you go to become a principal, and from a principal, you could become a manager one, two, three, even though you're not managing people, but it's just the next step. And then you can become a director and so on. Same thing here, but then that's where I want to say the division splits, whether or not if you want to become a
Hmm.
manager and manage other people, or if you want to become an individual contributor. So that's up to you.
Okay, so you can stay in both technical and the management fields. It's totally up to an individual.
Yes, and if there's opportunities for it as well. But yes,
Hmm. Okay, perfect. And so, what are the most common challenges of a data analyst?
the data isn't there. I would say
Data.
that the
Okay.
data is not available. That's the most challenging because then you have to go and collect it, and that's a manual process.
Hmm. And you have to do it by yourself, or do you have a say team of junior data analysts under your belt?
And the situation where that has happened to me, I actually were I had 2.5 headcounts helping me to collect the data, and it was a 3-month period for us to manually go out and collect the data, and
Hmm.
that's within our team. And then also we got to borrow headcount from other teams to help us.
Okay. Okay, thank you so much. So, Sheila, as you mentioned that you came to Intuit with about 5 years of experience at HP, right?
Hmm.
Uh, what's the typical day of an entry-level candidate? Suppose if someone is just fresh out of the college, joining first job in the data science division or in the junior entry role of as a data analyst, what will be their typical day and what will be their roles and responsibilities? What are expected from them?
I want to say the first thing they'll probably do, and it's first. I don't want to say admin, but it's they get to do administration tasks, and they're depending on how well they perform those tasks, then they'd be pushed to more complicated tasks or more complicated work. And I have a really good example of um, uh, we had a recent graduate. He got a task that was to manually update a data every month. It was taking the data, manipulated it, a few columns in Excel, and then uploading it to the next folder. This is just an example now. But he just came from college, and he had really good experience with Excel and VBA. And we didn't know that at that time, but he got this task, and he just did some VBA adjustments. So now every month, instead of him putting an hour in of taking it out, manipulating it, and then putting into a folder, he just put in a VBA code and then just clicked on it, and it did it for him. So he just saved an hour work, and that became 5 minutes, if less. And that was him. He definitely proved himself there. He showed us something that we haven't seen before. Yes, we were
Hmm.
old, and we haven't seen, but he also showed us a more efficient way of doing it, and it's gone very well for him ever since. But it's just a showing that even if you get admin task, if you can do it more efficiently and do it more and do it accurately, that that's just gonna you're just making it easier for yourself to get promoted, so to speak. But yeah.
hmm And actually, this story reminded me of my first job where I was working, and actually I didn't do that, but one of my colleague, he also joined with me, and that project had a lot of manual tasks involved in it, right? We used to take like a lot of data from Excel sheet, fill it into another software, and we were like, okay, there's no scope of innovation. At the end, like after 6 months, this guy developed some uh, he developed a small piece of code that automated that entire process and literally saved 45 to 50 minutes in every project.
Yeah,
So it's the same story, and as you said, it simplified the path for him for the next promotion. So
absolutely. And it's so funny because now we're all like, oh, we got to find these recent graduates because they know all the tools and all the shortcuts that we old people don't know about.
yes,
So yeah, it's definitely appreciated.
yes, cool. Okay, Sheila, can you tell me about the most interesting project that you have done in your last few years of career in data analyst?
Sure. The most exciting one I want to say latest exciting one was when we were working on our customer care project. Our business units were working separately with partners, so to speak. And so if we had business unit one was working with this partner, business unit two was working with that partner, business unit three was working with the same partner. So within the company, all business units were working individually with that same partner. And we came in and basically worked all together to have so that we worked as one company towards that partner, so to speak. Instead of having three different channels working with one partner, we
Mm,
now have one. And that simplified it, made it easier for both the partner and ourselves. It made it easier for our customers, and obviously we all um, saved more time and money with that approach.
perfect. No, that's amazing. So, thank you so much, Sheila, for sharing all your experiences with the data analyst position. I'll take one more question, which is, and it's a final question. So, what advice would you give to aspiring data analysts to become successful in their career?
I want to say learn the tools, learn the new, quicker or more efficient way of doing things that we do today.
hmm So that you can impress your senior management, right?
Exactly. Oh,
Yes.
you're doing that so slow. Let me show you a faster way how to do it.
For sure. Thank you so much, Sheila, for sharing all the advice, knowledge, and the insights. We really, really appreciate it. I'll just take 2 more minutes to wrap up the webinar.
Sounds good.
Okay, please allow me to share my screen. Can you see it? Okay. So as I introduced at the beginning, High Counselor can help you find a coach and a company insider who can increase your chances to land a job at your dream company. So no more spending hours of browsing through hundreds of LinkedIn profiles to find someone to connect with, and no more feeling of the indebtedness because you have asked someone to help you to learn from about their company. So as I promised at the beginning, uh, we have a little gift for you. So right after this webinar, we'll send you a short survey with a discount coupon of 50% that you can use on our platform to book an appointment with any of the counselors working in the companies that are coming on the screen. So if you are targeting a job in data science or software engineering industry, feel free to check out our platform and you'll find a lot of counselors who are willing to help you. If you haven't subscribed to our YouTube channel yet, please do it. You'll find recording of all of our previous webinars and you'll get a lot of helpful information there. So that's all about today's webinar. For all the upcoming webinars, please sign up on highcounselor.com so that we can keep you posted about it. And again, thank you so much, Sheila, for your time. We really, really appreciate it. We enjoyed the conversation. Hope to see you soon.
Thank you. You too.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. Bye.